Welcome back to Crime Scene 24/7. To our returning subscribers, thank you for always engaging. Your likes, comments, and shares keeps us motivated. And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our chilling crime scenes. Here we dig deep, we investigate hard, and we bring you stories the mainstream left unsaid. So encourage us by engaging in our videos. Subscribe if you haven't, like, comment, and share. She was 11 years old. With schoolwork unfinished and a body growing weaker by the day, Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia wasn't living. She was surviving. According to court documents, her mother, Karla Garcia, admitted she and her boyfriend, Jonatan Nanita, tied Mimi with zip ties, made her lie on pee pads in a corner, and stopped feeding her for weeks before she died. On October 8, 2025, Mimi's remains were discovered in a plastic tote behind an abandoned property on Clark Street in New Britain, Connecticut, months after she is believed to have died in fall 2024. Meanwhile, the State Child Welfare Agency, believing her alive, had conducted a virtual check-in, weeks after investigators say she was already dead. In this video, we'll uncover how a child's cries for help were hidden behind homeschooling paperwork, and why no one intervened. The question now is, how many alarms were ignored before Mimi's final hour? October 8, 2025, an abandoned property on Clark Street in New Britain, Connecticut. Inside, behind a plastic tote, were the remains of 11-year-old Jacqueline Mimi Torres Garcia. Documents now show her death followed weeks of torture, restrained with zip ties, forced to lie on pee pads, starving under the roof of her own home. Her mother, Karla Garcia, admitted that she and her boyfriend, Jonatan Nanita, stopped all meals for Mimi in the weeks leading to her death. Even the state agency supposed to protect her, the Connecticut Department of Children Families, believed she was alive, conducting a virtual check-in while she was already gone. When the search warrants dropped, the truth they carried was almost too painful to believe. Karla Garcia, Mimi's own mother, told investigators she and her boyfriend, Jonatan Nanita, stopped feeding the 11-year-old for weeks before she died. Weeks. Imagine the silence in that home, the sound of a child's hunger echoing in every room, unanswered. As the days passed, Mimi's small frame weakened. Every meal withheld became another quiet act of cruelty. This wasn't neglect. It was deliberate starvation, the kind that turns innocence into suffering and a home into a cell. According to investigators, this wasn't a moment of rage. It was a pattern, a choice repeated day after day, until her little body could no longer hold on. Her mother, the one person meant to protect her, admitted it. And that confession alone changed the course of this case, from tragedy to horror. What came next in those search warrants left even veteran detectives silent. Documents revealed that Mimi wasn't just starved, she was restrained, zip-tied, forced to lie on pee pads in a corner of a room like an unwanted pet. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a punishment gone too far. It was routine, cold, calculated. Her aunt, Jacqueline Garcia, later told investigators she took a photo, a haunting image of that little girl bound and lying on the floor. She said she sent it to Karla Garcia, Mimi's mother, but Karla didn't rush home. She didn't call for help. That moment, captured in a single photograph, would later become one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in the case. Proof that Mimi's suffering wasn't hidden. It was seen, and ignored. October 8, 2025. A call came into police in New Britain, Connecticut. Someone had discovered a strange plastic tote abandoned behind a vacant property on Clark Street. At first, investigators thought it was just another dump site, a discarded storage bin among the city's forgotten corners. But when they lifted the lid, the smell told them otherwise. Inside that tote were the skeletal remains of a small child, wrapped in layers of trash bags, left outside like garbage. It didn't take long for forensic teams to confirm what many had feared. The body belonged to 11-year-old Mimi, reported missing months earlier. The timeline stunned investigators. Mimi wasn't a recent victim. Evidence suggested she had died nearly a year earlier, sometime in the fall of 2024. And all that time, while the world believed she was alive and safe with her mother, Mimi had already been gone, her tiny body decomposing just miles from where she once played. Detectives at the scene later described the discovery as one of the most heartbreaking moments of their careers, because this wasn't just a case of neglect or disappearance. It was a story of deliberate cruelty and a system that failed to notice. In the months before that grim discovery, Connecticut's Department of Children and Families, DCF, had Mimi's name on their radar. There had been reports, concerns. Neighbors whispered that the little girl hadn't been seen outside for a long time, but when caseworkers scheduled a welfare check, it wasn't in person. It was a virtual visit, a simple video call meant to confirm Mimi's well-being, and on that screen a child appeared, smiling faintly, saying she was fine. Except, it wasn't Mimi. According to investigators, another child had been instructed to pretend to be her. The real Mimi was likely already dead, months before that call ever took place. Documents from the search warrants reveal a chilling detail. During that digital check, DCF workers believed they had fulfilled their duty. They marked the case as no immediate concern. But behind that screen, the truth was being buried, quite literally. For law enforcement, this single event became the turning point of the investigation. Because if the system couldn't tell one child from another over a webcam, how many other children might be slipping through the cracks? When the medical examiner began the autopsy, they were prepared for signs of violence, bruises, fractures, blunt force trauma. But what they found told a different kind of horror. There were no recent wounds, no fresh injuries. Mimi's small frame showed the unmistakable signs of starvation. Her body had been shutting down day by day, organ by organ. The report noted severe malnourishment, evidence that she had been deprived of food for weeks before her death. Her hair was thinning, her muscles wasted, her weight shockingly below that of a healthy 11-year-old. This wasn't a quick act of violence. It was slow, prolonged, a drawn-out suffering that only ended when her body couldn't endure it anymore. Detectives described the findings as one of the hardest things they'd ever had to read, because it confirmed what Karla García, her own mother, had already confessed. She and her boyfriend, Jonatan Nanita, stopped feeding Mimi, deliberately. Investigators say it wasn't neglect, it was punishment. A punishment that turned into murder. And as the medical examiner placed the final seal on the report, one question echoed across the investigation. How could a child suffer for so long, and no one see it happening? In the end, the story of Mimi García isn't just about the horror of what was done to her. It's about how a child can disappear in plain sight. For months, people assumed Mimi was alive, even state caseworkers. A virtual welfare check allowed another child to pretend to be her on video. And so, the system that was supposed to protect her failed her completely. When investigators finally found Mimi's remains inside a plastic tote behind an abandoned house on Clark Street in New Britain, Connecticut, they uncovered more than evidence of a crime. They uncovered a tragedy that exposed cracks in child protection, oversight, and human empathy. The autopsy revealed no fresh wounds, no signs of a violent struggle, but it told the story of a slow, painful death from starvation, a little girl fading away in silence while adults looked the other way. Today, Karla García and her boyfriend Jonatan Nanita sit behind bars, charged with murder, risk of injury to a minor, and evidence tampering. But even as justice begins to unfold, questions remain. How did the system fail so completely? How could anyone, especially a mother, watch a child waste away and do nothing? And how many other children like Mimi are still unseen? Mimi was only 11. She should have been in school, laughing with friends, dreaming of what she wanted to be when she grew up. Instead, her story has become a haunting reminder of what happens when love turns cruel and accountability comes too late. Do you believe child welfare agencies should face charges when a case like this slips through the cracks? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If stories like Mimi's move you, if you believe in truth, justice, and accountability, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because here at Crime Scene 24/7, we don't just tell stories. We give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves.